So today I'm going to do my devotional on 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Just the first bit because it's kind of long, but what I'm going to be looking at is Paul's description of the heavenly body. How the heavenly body is much more permanent than our earthly bodies. How the heavenly body means he's close to Jesus. And actually being in the earthly body means he's away from the Lord. But also the context, why he's so eager to go to heaven. And that's because Paul is doing ministry that's very, very difficult. He's being hard-pressed, he's being crushed, he's facing a lot of pressure, and you see that in the previous chapter. But because he has this hope that he'll one day be with Jesus, he continues on in this ministry that's so difficult. So that's kind of like the context. Paul is explaining, maybe even defending, why it is worthwhile suffering for Jesus in this body while we're doing ministry and preaching Christ in this body. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 5. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. So just worth saying that this eternal house is not talking about a building, it's talking about a body. And so this earthly tent is something that's very tiny, it's just made out of cloth, but that building is very strong, very permanent, it's built by God, not human hands. And so he's looking forward to that. And he doesn't care whether this gets destroyed or not, whether he dies or not. Verse 2, meanwhile we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling. So again, very interesting. He's wearing these clothes, but these clothes is a building. Verse 3, because when we are clothed, we'll not be found naked. So interesting analogy with the shame that comes from being naked, the shame that Adam and Eve experienced in the garden. And there they were clothed with something that was very impermanent, the fig leaf. But here, God promises one day Paul will be clothed completely with this permanent building. Yeah. Verse 4, for while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. So again, this description of groaning, going, why? And I think he's overlapping the groaning of the pains of maybe being in the body. You get a toothache, you get a backache, that kind of thing. But he overlays that kind of groaning, also the kind of groaning that comes from doing ministry. Doing ministry in the body is very, very difficult, and he's suffering and he might die. But it's okay, because what he wants to be is to be clothed with the permanent existence in heaven. So that's again the context. It's groaning not just from normal everyday pains, but from normal everyday ministry that Paul is doing in the body. Verse 5, now the one who's fashioned us for this very purpose is God, who's given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. So God himself assures us, don't worry, Paul, this will really happen, and he assures him through the Spirit that he puts in us. But it's also interesting that Paul says, God is the one who fashioned us for this very purpose. That means God is the one who gave him this frustration. God is the one who designed that he's going to be doing this ministry, but in a very, very weak existence, weak body. And that's just worth thinking about, because if you're in ministry and you're thinking, oh, if only I were in a bigger church, or if I'm in ministry and I wish I could speak better or I had certain gifts, I would be able to do this in a much easier way or more effective way. And Paul is kind of saying, God made us this way. God gave us these temporary bodies. God gave us these aches and frustrations so that we would serve him while we are in this state. And that's, again, Paul's reasoning. There's a reason why Paul can long for that amazing, heavenly, permanent existence. It's because while he's in this tent, he's serving God. And it creates for him this longing. It causes in him this groaning for this heavenly dwelling. So it's both. Heaven motivates him in ministry, but ministry also motivates him to look forward to heaven. Yeah. So carrying on verse 6, therefore we are always confident and know that as long as we're at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. Interesting that if you're here at earth, you're actually far away from God. Interesting perspective, right? That means don't be too comfortable when you're here in this body, but also when you're here in this ministry. Verse 7, for we live by faith, not by sight. Verse 8, we are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord. Yeah. So here it starts to make sense, right? He actually would prefer to be out of this body, meaning he would prefer to die. And he says this in Corinthians as well, to be with Christ is better by far. But I think, again, the context that he would be preferred to be away from this very frustrating form of ministry, this frustrating form of serving God, when he'll be in this permanent form and he'll be able to praise God and be with God forever. Obviously, that is better than this. So verse 9, well, before I go to verse 9, so how do you balance this? Do you just anyhow go through ministry and just get it done with, and then one day I'll go to heaven? Do you then just complain some more because you know that it's so difficult, and Paul says you're frustrated and you're groaning, and so you complain about the pay that you get, you complain about the people that you have to serve, or they're always so snarky, or they don't appreciate what I'm doing for them? Is that what you do? No, it's quite the opposite, actually. Verse 9, so we make it our goal to please him, whether we're at home in the body or away from it. Yeah, so he's frustrated, but he also sees the goal of this life then is to please God when it's hard. The goal of this life is to serve God when it is frustrating. Why? Verse 10, and we'll end with this. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due to us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. And the motivation then is that one day Jesus will come back as judge. He will judge us based on what we do in the body. And so there's this kind of like judgment call. And it's not, I don't think it's talking about salvation, do you get into heaven or not? But it's talking again about the ministry that Paul has, whether you serve God when it was hard, and whether you did good or did bad. Again, it's an assessment of your service before God, your attitude for Christ when it wasn't comfortable, when it was sacrificial, and where you're longing for something better, but you still stuck at it. You still aim to please God in the body. So Paul's motivation for doing ministry that is very, very difficult, that is very, very frustrating, and he wishes it wasn't so, is two things. Number one, he knows there will come a time when he'll be clothed with his heavenly body. But number two, therefore, he aims to please God when he is in this body. Now is the time to live for Jesus. Now is the time to serve God with all you have when it is very, very difficult. And the point of this earthly existence that's very temporary is not to make things comfortable, especially when it comes to ministry. The point is not to build a career from it. The point is not to make it easier as you go along, but actually to realize that it is meant to be difficult. He says again, God fashioned us for this very purpose. God made us this way, made us in such a way that we will grow older, we'll get weaker, that things are hard, and God made us this way so that we'll long for heaven, but heaven also gives us a perspective that we can only please God here in the body. We'll please him then as well, but now is the opportunity to please him when it's really, really tough. So very, very interesting perspective from Paul, and I think it's again specifically for those who are in ministry, that it's meant to be hard, but it's also an opportunity to please Jesus. I find this very, very challenging. Initially, I was supposed to go through these verses as part of a talk for a bunch of students that got cancelled today. That's why I'm just treating this like a devotional. But I'm finding it very, very convicting because, it's very easy to turn ministry into something that you wear like a badge of honor and say, wow, you look at this, I'm suffering for Jesus. Or you can turn it into an opportunity to build a career. Unfortunately, you can use it as, you can just measure how much am I getting out of this ministry? Are people appreciating me? Am I getting paid enough? Am I getting enough rest? That kind of thing. But here's Paul who says, it is very difficult. It's supposed to be very, very difficult. It will get better, but only when we go to heaven. Therefore, make it our goal to please God now when it is very, very difficult. Very, very convicting perspective on ministry. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you think this is helpful? Do you think that maybe it isn't just talking about ministry; it's talking about our existence in general? Let me know. Yeah.